Should the government step in and house prisoners who've been released early if they now find themselves to be homeless? We're taking your calls on this. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood has said that inmates who were homeless on release could be temporarily placed in taxpayer-funded budget hotels if there's not enough space in other community accommodation. Freed prisoners who are homeless are more than 30% more likely to reoffend than those who have accommodation. Is it a good idea? You start, Lynn.
I just think, can we incentivise criminality any more? So not only do they get to leave early, but they get to have accommodation in a hotel. And this is such
Someone was picked up from jail yesterday in a Lambo or something. Was it a Lamborghini?
One of those nice tinted transit vans.
I don't know what it was. It was a sports car.
Yeah, I just think, like, what message does this send out to people potentially thinking of committing a crime?
So your worry is you go to prison for a very, very short time and then you have a hotel stay.
And then you have a hotel stay, exactly. And then when we're actually having to argue how pensioners are going to essentially heat their homes, they're going to have lovely warm hotel rooms that they don't have to pay anything for. And this is because of an abject failure, not just because of Labour or Conservative, just because of successive governments who have failed to build the necessary prisons required for the numbers that we have in this country.
Well, apparently the Conservatives built 2 more prisons.
It's not enough, is it?
At least, well, apparently not. What do you think, Carolyn? These are pictures that could damage your administration.
Yeah, well, I mean, this problem was started by the Conservative government, without a shadow of a doubt.
It wasn't started by the Conservatives.
Well, it's certainly made worse over the last 40 years.
How many prisons did Labour build in their tenure?
This has been made worse over the last 40 years.
I mean, this is making us all feel terrible. This guy's actually opening, I think that looks like Prosecco.
No, they're having a party, a street party.
I totally get that this was a really bad image, but if you're going to put those people on the streets to live, they're more likely to commit a crime. There could be licence conditions, which means they have to be released into accommodation. I mean, speaking about women, talk about women being released from prison. If a woman is released from prison onto the streets, how vulnerable is she?
The majority are men, though.
Well, there's a lot of women as well. I mean, there are women. You can't. We don't make separate rules from.
But
I don't like the conversation of just saying women, because they're like one of the highest killers of men is suicide. So if we're going to be fair about vulnerability, we have to look at both men and women.
And would we put someone who's vulnerable on the streets?
Well, you look, that's a stout defence of the policy, if I may say so. Rob is in Cumbria. What do you think? Is this? I know what they call the optics are not good, Rob, but maybe it's the only way.
I think the optics don't look good, but the actual practicality of delivering it is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Some prisoners are going to be let out early, and some of them won't have anywhere to go. Did no one think this through? It's absolutely ridiculous.
In fairness to Carolyn and Labour, bear in mind this was definitely on Sunak's desk. He almost had to leave the policy, but they were about to have to do the same thing.
Well, I doubt that they would release prisoners early, and who many might have nowhere to live. But this is, I wouldn't expect anything else from Labour. They're taking away the £300 with the fuel allowance. They're letting criminals out to roam the streets. They've got nowhere to live, some of them. You know what I mean? They're just going to end up back in prison. Why don't we just build more prisons or build halfway houses so when they're released, they could have the day in the community, but they have to be back for a certain time at night, or outsource the prisons to other countries. Labour are absolutely... Austerity, it seems to be, on steroids. Build more prisons, give the winter fuel allowance back to the pensioners, and they need to oust Starmer, like they did with Johnson, because I fear for this country under Starmer.
Really? OK, he's only been in 8 weeks. Thanks, Rob. Deirdre in Northumberland, do you think the hotel's policy is necessary?
Yes, I do. I think they're human beings, and whatever it is that's messed their lives up, when they come out of prison, they definitely need somewhere to live. If they don't, they're going to go back into prison, cost the taxpayer more money. It'll cost more to keep them in prison for a night than in a hotel. But not everybody will.
I was just thinking, Deirdre, if I was a prisoner being released and I worked out that when they ask me, have you got anywhere to live, I need to say no, because then I'll get put in a hotel. I think they're all going to say they haven't got anywhere to live.
They're not going to be put in the Ritz, you know, Jeremy. I mean, you know, we rehouse and rehome foreigners in hotels, and, you know, is that fine?
That's true, Lynn. This is not Holiday Inn level.
Can I just ask you a question? They're not going to use the entirety of the hotel. They're going to use as a room-by-room basis. So what about, because I work in housing, I sometimes put vulnerable women with children in hotels as a decant. What if there are some violent offenders who have been, because some of them are, even though their sentences were less than 5 years, what if they're in a room next to a vulnerable family? What about that?
Well, there would have been a release from prison in any case. There were short-term prison sentences. And, like I said, they are human beings and we have to look after them. Whatever it is has messed their lives up. I feel for prisoners because, they are but for the grace of God go I. We don't know what it is.
Well, you're a very thoughtful person. Your dog is making that growling noise that suggests there might be somebody outside the house. There aren't any prisoners near you.
No, they're not.
Going, thank you, Deirdre. Give him a biscuit. William in Oxfordshire, hi.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Oh, that's very sedate. You haven't got a dog near you.
Yes, we have. And he's sitting on the back of the sofa waiting for a prisoner to come by.
Oh, God, mustn't laugh. OK, so what about this? Hotels, if otherwise they're homeless.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. When I spoke to your person just now, we've got a barge that we've spent a huge amount of money on in Poole Harbour that's sitting doing nothing.
Is this your family barge or?
My family barge, no.
You mean we as in the state? OK, sorry.
Yes.
This is the Bibby. Are you talking about the Bibby Stockholm here?
I am, yes.
Oh,
yes.
OK.
Good idea.
Well, there's a thought. That's a very interesting thought. Is that still there, Carolyn?
Well, I thought there were asylum seekers there. At least it was before the election, because I was on the Affairs Select Committee and we visited, and they were asylum seekers.
And they haven't emptied it because they're certainly going to stop using it. OK.
Really don't
so,
know.
William, I think the asylum seekers might be going next year from the barge. You're saying use that?
Absolutely right.
Brilliant idea.
But that's just basically another prison cell, isn't it, when you think about it?
But they should be in prison.
But then we don't have enough.
We're only releasing them.
They should take time.
No,
Well, then
but
what
we're
about this?
releasing them early, 40% instead of 50%.
But they will be on licence, so there'll be a legal categorisation where they wouldn't be able to be next door to vulnerable families because there would be an element of probation in there. They would have to report it.
Yeah.
It would be controlled. It wouldn't be just a free-for-all.
But he's on to something. The barge costs 20 million. I think it has about 500 places in it. You could rename it HMP Bibby.
Yep.
And turn it into a permanent floating
that's a
prison.
Then it was an
idea.
open prison then. It's not released into the...
Open prison?
It would have to be like a category of an open prison.
Why?
Because if you're going to put people in there, like you said, it's a prison. So you're going to put them back in this prison, then they're not being released from prison, are they? Is it in...
No, they're not. Well, no, they would just say, we're sorry, we made a mistake.
Yeah, so
I just
an overflow facility.
With COVID, we built these hospitals very quickly. Why can't we just build facilities that contain prisoners? Why can't we do
listen,
that?
we can't build a railway. We tried to build HS2.
Why can't we build anything in this country?
We can't build anything at the moment. It may change.
Yeah, I mean, it's 8 weeks in.
Can you start building a prison now,
Yeah,
please?
from now.
Well, I will make.
But you're not. You guys.
recommendations.
I think you guys aren't going to, because I think Labour's instinct will be: 85,000 people is too many to have in prisons in this country. We need to attack it from another direction, either lighter sentences or changing the whole of our society so fewer people commit crimes.
That's
like a slightly big job.
It's unlikely to happen, isn't it? But the criminal justice system needs, like the NHS, needs to be looked at, and it needs reforming.
All right. So, William, thank you for your suggestion. Janet's in Lincolnshire. This is such an interesting item. Janet, what do you think? It's going to upset people to see prisoners in hotels. That's the bottom line here, isn't it?
It is. I live in Lincoln. We have several old RAF stations around here, one being Scampton, where there are a load of old buildings there that could be quite easily made into an open prison, which would house people with less criminal records, maybe.
Yes. I mean, I don't know this idea of an open prison, why do we bother? Why don't you just release people? There's no such thing as an open prison, is there?
Because they
by
need
definition.
There has to
they
be,
can go out and come back.
Yeah.
They have to be. They have to get used to society gradually. They
can go
can't
on
just
rota.
going from a stretch to just freedom.
No, OK, all right. So, Janet, you think put them there for a year or so on the way out?
I do, and what's more, I don't know how true this is, but apparently we are housing an awful lot of people from other countries.
Migrants, I think that's true, yeah.
Our laws. Why am I, as a taxpayer, paying to keep them in our prisons?
Agreed.
Well, I don't think they're in prisons, but they may be in holding centres like the one you described. I mean, that's certainly been happening. And we know, I mean, I don't know, was there a day when the 500 came over in one day?
Yeah.
It's a lot. That's a whole other thing.
Criminals that do not
But we have to bust the
citizenship.
gangs.
You've got to bust the gang. You know, you said that during the election and you got away with it.
The trafficking...
You're going to have to do
Easier
it.
said than
Trafficking
done.
gangs are violent, absolutely.
Of course they are. But they were trying to bust them 5
But they're in
years
other
ago.
countries, so...
Yeah, but maybe you get better busters in.
But we're
That's
going to
the
get a
point.
better relationship with France, where they are, I mean, and other countries where they're actually selling this. This is a commodity. People are selling
I've seen
the
it.
commodity of transporting people into this country.
All right, well, let's see what happens with this story. Later, the papers and everything else, we'll talk about Donald Trump going viral after his claims that migrants are eating dogs and cats.